Have you ever wondered why the worst people, manipulators, liars, and even criminals, seem to rise to the top? Why does society reward the ruthless, while the kind-hearted struggle? We were taught that playing fair leads to success, that honesty, patience, and hard work will get us everything we desire. But history tells a different story. Look around. The world isn't run by the nicest people. It's run by those who know how to play the game. The question isn't just, why do bad people succeed? The real question is, why do good people let them? There's an uncomfortable truth that most people don't want to accept. The world doesn't reward fairness. It rewards power. Take a moment to think about history. Alexander the Great, one of the most successful conquerors, didn't ask for permission. He took what he wanted. Julius Caesar was adored by the people, but he betrayed and manipulated his way to power. Modern billionaires and corporate giants, they know how to bend the rules and exploit loopholes. The biggest CEOs, politicians, and leaders weren't the kindest people. They were the ones who understood the system and used it to their advantage. Meanwhile, good people hesitate. They wait for fairness. They believe in the idea that hard work alone is enough. But history shows us, power doesn't belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who take it. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche believed that society is divided into two moralities. 1. Master morality, strength, power, ambition, dominance. 2. Slave morality, obedience, humility, fairness, kindness. Society teaches slave morality. Why? Because it keeps people in line. Today, we dive deep into the psychology, philosophy, and brutal reality of power to uncover why, time and time again, the worst people seem to succeed. History is written by the victors. And if we study those victors, a disturbing pattern emerges. Think about figures like Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, or Napoleon Bonaparte. Their rise wasn't fueled by kindness or fairness. It was built on ruthless ambition, strategy, and a willingness to destroy anything in their way. Even in modern times, we see it. The billionaires who exploit loopholes, the politicians who sell illusions, the corporate giants who crush competition with no regard for ethics. Meanwhile, good people struggle. They work hard, they follow the rules, yet they rarely reach the top. So, here's the question. Is morality a disadvantage in the pursuit of power? Or is it simply that the game was never meant to reward fairness in the first place? Friedrich Nietzsche believed that our entire idea of morality is built to benefit the weak, to keep them from rising up against the strong. But what if morality is nothing more than a social illusion? Let's take a deeper look at what philosophy, psychology, and history tell us about why the worst people rise to the top, and whether morality is just a tool to control the masses. To truly understand why the worst people often succeed, we must confront uncomfortable ideas that stretch the very foundation of how we view power, success, and morality. Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century philosopher, radically challenged our traditional notions of good and evil. For Nietzsche, morality wasn't an inherent truth. It was a set of rules imposed by society to curb the power of the strong. He called this the slave morality, a morality that values meekness, humility, and submission. The weak, according to Nietzsche, created these moral values as a way to protect themselves from the powerful. But in doing so, they created a system that rewards the meek and powerless, while punishing the strong and ambitious. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, or Superman, challenges this very idea. The Übermensch is the individual who rises above the common morals of society, a person who creates their own values, who embraces strength, power, and self-determination. Now, let's pivot to psychology. How does this philosophy play out in real-world human behavior? One critical psychological concept here is the just world fallacy. The just world fallacy is the belief that the world is inherently fair, and that people get what they deserve. It's a comforting lie, a way to rationalize why some people succeed despite their unethical behavior. It allows us to believe that good things happen to good people. But in reality, life isn't fair, and power doesn't always go to those who deserve it based on moral grounds. This belief in a just world leads us to ignore the influence of dominance hierarchies in society. Every social structure from corporations to politics has a hierarchy, an invisible ranking system where the strongest, most aggressive individuals rise to the top. These individuals are often less concerned with morality and ethics and more focused on winning. They see the world as a battlefield, and in battle, compassion has no place. Think of it like a game of chess. On the chessboard, the goal is simple: checkmate. It doesn't matter whether your move is kind or cruel. All that matters is winning the game. This mentality drives ruthless people. They act strategically, calculating their next move with precision. They don't care if others get hurt, as long as they succeed. And in the complex, competitive world we live in, success often rewards the most ruthless players. But here's the real question. If morality is indeed just a tool to control, does that make it a weakness in the world of power and success? Or is there a hidden truth beneath these philosophical and psychological frameworks? Let's talk about the reality of power, the hard truth that many don't want to face. In Nietzsche's eyes, the world is not a place of fairness. Instead, it's a jungle where only the strongest survive, where ruthlessness often leads to power and control. But why is this the case? Why do we see people who seem morally corrupt rise to the top? The answer lies in evolutionary psychology and human nature. As social creatures, we've always operated in hierarchies, whether it's in a pack of wolves, a tribal community, or a corporate empire. These hierarchies dictate who gets the resources, who gets the influence, and who gets to lead. When humans first evolved, the strongest and most strategic individuals rose to power. They were decisive, fearless, and uncompromising. These traits, ambition, the willingness to dominate, and an ability to ruthlessly strategize, are the same traits that can help someone climb the social ladder today. This is especially evident in the world of business, politics, and any competitive environment where survival depends on being one step ahead of the competition. Take a look at some of the most influential figures in history. Figures like Napoleon Bonaparte, whose ambition and decisiveness propelled him to power, or Steve Jobs, whose ruthless approach to business disrupted entire industries. These men were not saints. In fact, they were often criticized for their aggressive tactics, their harsh treatment of others, and their unforgiving nature. Yet their ability to succeed was precisely because they understood that in the world of power, morality is often a tool, not a necessity. Consider the corporate world, where cutthroat competition and savage ambition often win the game. It's a place where leaders who refuse to back down, who demand results at all costs, outshine those who hesitate or are overly concerned with ethics. Those who push the boundaries, who take risks, and who break the rules often come out on top. The simple truth is that the world rewards those who act decisively, even if their actions aren't always morally commendable. We see this in every corner of society, from the cutthroat nature of politics, where ruthless leaders often prevail, to business empires, where corporate raiders and tyrannical bosses have built their fortunes. The ruthlessness to outmaneuver competitors, the audacity to make unpopular choices, this is what fuels success in high-stakes environments. But then, let's consider the traits of high achievers in these power dynamics: ambition, decisiveness, the ability to manipulate, and the absence of fear. These individuals are often able to cast aside morality because their self-interest drives them. Ethical concerns take a back seat when power and success are on the line. Historical figures like Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, or even modern magnates like Elon Musk are all examples of individuals who have achieved great success by embracing ambition and ruthlessness. They understood the game of power. They understood that in order to win, you can't let morality slow you down. Power, in this view, is a cold, calculated pursuit. In the battle for success, the strong thrive, and the weak fall behind. But this leads us to a critical paradox: the dangerous consequences of this very approach. Now, let's explore the paradox of ruthlessness. For all the power and success that ruthless individuals accumulate, there's a dark side to this approach, one that often leads to self-destruction. We see this story play out time and time again in history. Those who rise to the top through sheer will, who crush their opponents, and who abandon ethics in the pursuit of victory, often fall harder than those who didn't. The very qualities that give them power, arrogance, ambition, and lack of empathy, can also become their undoing. Take Napoleon Bonaparte, for example. He was a brilliant tactician, but his ruthlessness in battle, his disregard for human life, and his endless pursuit of empire building ultimately led to his downfall. His desire for absolute control and his unrelenting ambition isolated him from his allies and led to a catastrophic defeat in Russia. Napoleon's downfall wasn't just because of his mistakes. It was because he failed to balance his ambition with wisdom. His ruthlessness ultimately led him into self-destruction. Then there's Enron's Kenneth Lay and Jeffrey Skilling, men who rose to the heights of corporate success by ruthlessly manipulating markets and deceiving investors. At the height of their power, they were seemingly invincible, but their lack of ethical considerations and their dishonesty led to a collapse that destroyed not only their careers, but the lives of thousands of employees. They didn't just fall. They took an entire company and countless innocent people down with them. And who can forget the story of Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of Theranos? She once appeared to be the next big thing in Silicon Valley, a self-made billionaire with promises of revolutionizing healthcare. But her deceptive practices and the ruthlessness with which she pushed her agenda despite knowing her technology was flawed ultimately led to her criminal conviction. Like many before her, her downfall was not because of her ambition, but because she disregarded the moral compass that guides human interactions. The truth is that ruthlessness, when left unchecked, can create a blinding tunnel vision. In the pursuit of success, these individuals forget the basic moral and ethical structures that keep societies functioning. They manipulate, exploit, and deceive, and eventually, that deception catches up with them. The lack of balance between ambition and wisdom ultimately leads to their fall from grace. This is where we introduce the idea of strategic morality, a concept that suggests that true power doesn't come from blind ruthlessness, but from understanding the value of ethics in long-term strategy. Leaders like Nelson Mandela, for example, who fought for justice but also recognized the importance of forgiveness and reconciliation, achieved power through a balance of ruthlessness and moral vision. He understood that power isn't just about winning at all costs. It's about winning in a way that preserves humanity, dignity, and justice. And this, too, is part of Nietzsche's philosophy. While Nietzsche spoke of the Übermensch, the Doberman who creates his own values, he also warned against the tyranny of unchecked power. He didn't envision a world where ruthless conquest was the end goal. Instead, Nietzsche spoke about self-mastery and the importance of wisdom and insight in the wielding of power. If we look at modern figures like Bill Gates, we see that the most successful individuals don't just dominate, they adapt. They recognize the need for collaboration and empathy. Power in today's world isn't just about defeating your opponents. It's about building relationships, recognizing your moral boundaries, and adjusting your strategies when necessary. The paradox here is clear. Ruthlessness may win you the game in the short term, but without balance, without a moral compass, and without self-awareness, you might be playing a game that destroys you in the end. So, what does this all mean for us? What are we to make of this contradiction? That the worst people sometimes seem to succeed. It forces us to ask, is power truly a reflection of virtue, or is it the result of an entirely different game? Is morality just a burden, a tool that holds us back in a world where power rules supreme? Or can we redefine success, finding a path that's both honorable and effective? The truth, perhaps, lies somewhere between the extremes. While the ruthless may reach the top through force, manipulation, and disregard for others, the truly great, those who lead not just with power, but with vision, ethics, and wisdom, are the ones who last. Power without accountability breeds tyranny, but power that is tempered with strategic morality breeds lasting change. And here's the question that I leave with you today. Can we find a way to succeed without compromising our values? Or are we forever doomed to play by rules that favor those who care little for the consequences of their actions? Is success truly worth it if it comes at the expense of our humanity? In a world where ruthless ambition is often rewarded, do we sacrifice our principles to win? Or do we stay true to them, risking everything for a victory that is far more than just personal gain? It's a choice that only you can make. But the answer, however you choose to navigate it, will determine not just your success, but the kind of world you leave behind. As you reflect on this question, remember, the most powerful questions often don't have clear answers, but they hold the key to the truth we're all searching for.